haze on fire.
I know, that's why
We'll blow it out. Hey guys, this is Cole with Regal Metalworks. Hey, some of you have been asking about doing an update for the Street Speed 717 Exoskeleton build. I apologize. I really want to shoot a lot more video than I have, and a lot of that comes down to just not having time to shoot it. It took us a little bit to get started. We really didn't have a game plan. We didn't have a sketch or anything like that, so we just kind of visually started with it. I do have some footage here I'll show you of us removing the rear bed. We did that with a plasma cutter and used the lift to lift it off, and you can take a look at that video footage right here.
Is this thing on?
Never gonna be the same again. Wielding a lightsaber, everybody. Let me have a look! What the hell?
Holy Toledo back home. Holy crap, man, Toledo. Well, they're not lining up.
They're lining up just fine. Free. It looks like freedom. Freedom! Ow! Sorry, I got that out of your way. It's on fire! Get your fire extinguisher down there. Oh no! Let it burn for a bit. No. Where is it? Where's my air water hose? Keep the sparks off my girl's leg. Smells like it. Lord, there's the fire. Smells so good. Are you serving hors d'oeuvres? Alright, I'll cut this side.
There's definitely hay over here. Yeah, that's what I worried about.
She's broken free, boys. Perfectly square. Haze on fire.
I know, that's why
We'll blow it out.
Alright, let her rip. Done. Yeah, it's a lot of hay. That was a lot of hay. Action! Higher. Let me grab. We don't want to lose it. What was on the back of that? Ball sack. Ball sack. Ball sack. Ball sack.
All right, we need to rip off this. Get your pry bar and pry bar all the plastic off.
Pry bar. All right, do it!
Luke, I am your father.
Just keep going.
There we go.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, but this is all foam, spray foam.
Well, not here. This is foam. This is That's foam. The smoke's coming out of the tail lights. I love it. Yeah. Not there. Are you filming me? Yeah, we're gonna need to hear each other. Okay, we need a safe word. Straight weasel. All right, hold on. All right, yeah, I'm clearing them by far. Shit, this thing can. Hold on.
You're clear or not?
I'm way clear.
Okay, is it gonna fall off?
I feel like we're not gonna get on. Well, hold on.
I don't wanna hold up.
All right, do it.
If backs are not, this one's not long enough.
No. I need maybe 2 or 3. Well, this will catch. What's up?
This one will catch. The wheels are just too wide.
Yeah, no, you're good. That's not going to do anything.
Well, it'll level it up with that one.
Yeah.
Here without being level.
Well, I put pride in my work. There's a beauty. Fit so many oars in that.
Where's another 2x4 to level up that side?
Here, that's all I got.
It's a shorty.
Hey! Now come on. You promised you wouldn't make more jokes. Here. Got that on film.
All right, so I'm going to go over some of the things that we did here and how we got started, and I'll catch a little bit more video. I have some video of us coping and welding and whatnot, just briefly, but we're already well along the stage of the roll cage. So what we did is we started the ground here and we worked our way up. So we started here. let me go ahead and put this up and I can show you guys. Okay, we started down here below the cab. My whole idea was to bring out a piece that we can build off of that welds to the frame. And we brought that out, and I quickly discovered that it would be too hard to really bend around, so we brought it out again. So we kind of made like a rocker guard, and then we started the actual build off of that. And the whole idea was to build a cage around the cab first, and then work our way back, and then once that was done, work our way forward. And that's pretty much what we did. We stuck with it. So we I just kind of winged it. I wasn't sure exactly how we were going to go about doing it. I had to do a little bit of researching on some roll cage, exoskeleton. There's really no rules for exoskeleton like there is for roll cage. But being that usually you have an exoskeleton when you have a body, there is no body on this truck. So we kind of did a mix between a roll cage, exoskeleton, and then we ended up going back and actually doing, we're in the process now of doing a roll cage inside the cab. So I wanted to kind of follow the body lines of the outside of the A pillar and the B pillar. And you can see we kind of did that. The dies that we're using to bend this tubing have a 6-inch radius. And a 6-inch radius is pretty big, but you can't get much smaller for the size tubing that we're using. And we're using 1 3/4 DOM. Right here is a 6-inch radius, you can see that. So you can bend that at whatever angle, but you're going to have a very large radius. And that's what we're getting here. I think this was probably like a 30-degree bend, but you can see it kicks it out far from the cab. And even if you started your bend lower, it still would push it into where you're going to be at and not give you quite as tight as what you want. So what I did with that to keep this tighter is I actually notched this and rolled it over. So then I actually have like a pie cut piece in here. Now that's not ideal, but being that it's an exoskeleton, it wasn't super critical. The other thing is I'm using mounting points to the body here. This is where the doors were, the hinges. So they were mounted here, so they got about 1/4-inch plates welded to the frame there. So we're using those to reinforce this joint. Now, anytime you make a joint, you basically want to do, like for example here, we have a joint. We want to sleeve this. So we use 1.5-inch DOM steel that slides in there. It's a 4-inch piece. We drill it completely through. We basically plug weld that so that those pieces can't move. And then we do an outside weld on that. And that makes that stronger, believe it or not, than actually the piece if it didn't have anything in it. So sometimes you have to do that in your bends because you can't quite make it out of either one piece of steel, or it doesn't quite fit, or you need to cock it, rotate it a little bit, the clocking's off, and it's easier if you just sleeve it instead of banging your head against the wall. But after we got this up here, we hadn't started the front yet. We decided to come back and go to the back. So what we did is we just kind of rolled this around. We rolled this here into the frame here. We had good access to the frame because we removed the bed that was on here. Well, it wasn't a bed, it was part of the truck. We actually had to cut it all off. But when we rolled this back here, I wanted to have something that came back that added back to the truck and kind of give it like an old school roll bar feel. So we decided to run this out with a 45 and run this down into the frame, and then we just welded it to the frame. And then we built out from there. Now ideally when you're building a roll cage, you want to do a lot of triangle shapes. That adds a lot more strength than if you do a square. You kind of want to avoid square shapes. In this case, for some of this, it doesn't really matter. Like here, this is a square. This is something you'd want to avoid if you're doing a roll cage, but this is actually a rear tire mount that we're going to use for a spare. So we'll go back in on some of these square 90s and we'll put gusseting in. We'll cut gussets and weld them in. And a gusset is something just like this. And this is something that we design and cut here in-house. And then we'll weld that in place. And now it'll add a lot of strength in here. So if this would have to crumple or rip apart, you'd have a lot more material there holding it together. We did go with the standard X-brace cross member on the back chassis here, which is what you'd want to do, and that's going to keep that hopefully from collapsing. The upper roof line here, we followed that contour as well, and how we did that is we actually rolled a piece of the steel in what they would call a metal roller, and it's not a bender. It doesn't actually bend it, it rolls it. It gives you a nice arc. And then we went ahead and tapered in the ends here to tie it into this here, because if we rolled that, it would never reach it. So we went ahead and did like a small 15-degree bend and then tied it in here. And now all these tubes get coped, and there's a video here of how we coped that. Welds are done with a TIG welder, where it's a tungsten inert gas welding process, which is different than your standard stick welding or your MIG welding. And on DOM, you can either MIG weld or TIG weld. TIG welding is a lot cleaner, and it gives you a lot more precise control over your puddle. So I prefer it. That's what I like to do. And we're using this little Lincoln Electric Square Wave 200. It's just super convenient. I just picked it up, I don't know, about a month or two ago. It's a nice little unit. It's got a decent 60% duty cycle, so you can actually run this guy pretty hard. Now the torch gets pretty hot if you're running welding for 6 minutes. But we picked that up basically because I wanted to be able to have a welding rig over here on the lift. A mobile welding rig. Right now my other welding rig is this big monster over here, which is the size of a refrigerator, and it's a pain to move, and it takes up a whole lot of room. You can see it has the big tank on the back. Water-cooled torch, which is super nice. It keeps your hands nice and cold. But like I said,
that is a major inconvenience if it's sitting right here in the way. So this small guy is great. If we have to weld anything on the table, we can take it over there. After we completed this rear end, we decided to move to the front. And what we wanted to do, since there was no fenders here, hood, or anything like that, front radiator support, all that was missing, we wanted to go ahead and recreate a shape that we thought looked aggressive and mean and fit in with the overall aesthetic design that we started with. You can see here, this is what we ended up with. Let me try and get I have a wide angle lens on so it distorts it pretty good. So what I wanted to do was roll this bar and tie it in here. I wanted to roll it. Oops. I also rolled the top bar here. This is rolled to match the roof line, as you can see here. And in order to do that, we decided we want to remove the windshield. And the reason we want to remove the windshield, go back to wide angle, is because it was already cracked over there. And in order to replace it, if we did something like this, it would be a complete nightmare for somebody to replace. Not to mention it wasn't really necessary. And if we didn't remove it, we would have to remove this light bar, run this bar up over top, move everything out. We'd have to do an interior roll cage. We couldn't do an exterior roll cage. So it really kind of tied our hands up. And at that point, we decided, you know, why stop there? This thing's never going to see the road again, at least legally. We pulled out the windshield wipers because they would be in the way, as well as the pump. We went ahead and removed the entire dash on the inside. We removed it all, the heater box, heater core, air conditioner, AC lines. It gave us a lot of room to really work, which is really nice when you're trying to weld this. As you can see in some videos I have, where you're in very precarious places trying to weld up underneath. You need room to lay down or tuck your head around, which is easier said than done when you're wearing a welding helmet. But back to the front, we wanted that to roll in. Now the original radiator support, this is the radiator support here, there's the radiator. This came out to the end here. Now when we designed our front bumper, you can see This is where the radiator support came out to. We cut that off. I wanted to narrow this front end. I didn't want it to be big, wide, and square like most of the GM and Chevy were in the day. So it gives us kind of an aggressive look. And we have a recessed back. It's really hard to show this on camera, but we ran a secondary bar here to give us the semblance of a fender, because we didn't have any. With one bar you really didn't have anything. And from here we can go ahead and we're going to do some gusseting. We might do a sheet plate in here with some holes, kind of like we did with the rear bumper, which would be dimple dyed for strength. We may do that, I'm not sure. That might be a second go around. But we tied it in here. The radiator, you can see how we had to kick this out in order for it to fit in line, or that would be recessed back in, because you can see here your upright here is behind this. And that's because we want to tie this into the frame, into the bumper mounts where we actually mounted the front bumper. So what we have to do here now is we have to design a front grille. I have some ideas. Had to cut this out for another project that I designed. That's a Black Hawk helicopter, but something blown up to scale. Of course, that wouldn't be a very good radiator protector, but American flag or something like that is a possibility. We also considered to do some sort of hood where we might have to make some stand-ups, and then we're going to do a sheet metal hood that just lays over with some tubing. It would probably look pretty cool, but I'm not sure if we're going to go that route just yet. We haven't gotten there yet. You can see we did a few plug welds here, mainly because this roll piece was a half of the other roll piece so that they matched. We cut it off. We did a bend here, and then we just joined it here. These are all sleeve. That's what you see, all these plug welds. This thing is solid. Now this, we're not really worried about protecting this if he would roll over. This doesn't really matter. It's not, I mean, we're worried about protecting him. Ideally, yeah, we don't want him to ruin anything, and this will suffice. But if we really wanted it to be strong, we'd have to do some sort of X member across here, but then that limits what you can do with the motor. If he wants to remove that, then you have to cut, remove bars, which is pain. That's why I said we could do some sort of temporary hood that bolts down that would add some strength. Then we moved on over here to the cab. Inside the cab here, we decided to do a full roll cage, basically to protect him. And we started with one of the first things you have to do is the seats can't attach to the body anymore, and you need them to be attached to the frame or to the roll cage. And the reason for that is that's your capsule, that's your life capsule. So if you go tumbling down a hill, your seat is bolted to this capsule and not bolted to the sheet metal frame. So if this tears off and does whatever, this could completely blow off. Have you ever seen any of those videos of drag cars, top fuel drag cars blowing all apart, and then you see this little capsule where the person's sitting? That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to protect the driver. So we went ahead and we have another bar that goes right here, but the way this hump sits up, it's too high. We're going to have to remove some material here, but we're currently waiting for seats for Mike to bring in. I don't want to space that out just yet until I know where the seat rails go, because we're going to have to make brackets and everything for the seat rails, and I want to give myself a little bit of flexibility. But we went ahead and got to do a lot of triangles here. This is not a triangle here, but we're going to do triangle gussets on it, and we're going to do another piece that goes from here straight down to this bar. That's what that's for. And then this comes down. This will be a center console, so we can install sheet metal, so he can install any type of gauges or switches that he may need. The factory gauges go right here. We'll probably do a sheet metal piece here. The way that their design is, this actually kind of holds in the sheet metal, and the gauges plug onto that and screw down. That's how that goes in. This actually doesn't clip into the piece. It actually clips into the sheet metal. So back here, we moved the battery, decided to move the battery because the battery was up on the right side where we removed all that material, the radiator support. So we decided to move it back here to the center of the cab, and we made a battery box, an aluminum battery box. I still have to machine a tie down top yet. We'll get to that. It's currently in the way for everything, so we'll build up a back rail here for anything protruding coming in. And then this gets one more piece that goes in here. This is not welded yet because we just did this today. But this piece goes up in here like such. So then you got that there for back support. So the seat will be here. You look from here, the seat will be in here, and then you'll be blocked off in the back. And that's what these were, because this was all open. Yikes. That's the fun you have when stuff isn't tacked in. And generally that's one of the things we do, is we go in and we tack everything in. So if we have to change something, we can go back and change it. And then once we decide, hey, we're done with this, we like this, I try and weld it all out. And the reason for that is, if you wait too long, there's a lot of welding. Not to mention, you keep adding pipes in, or not pipes, but this DOM tubing. It gets hard to position your torch in your body where this is in the way now, and you could have welded that better if it wasn't there. So sometimes you go so far and then you just start welding things out. So one other thing we got to do here, besides this bar here that goes across here, and that bar is going to get another brace that goes up, is we're going to do a bar here along the dash line. And that's going to come off the door, which we haven't done yet. And the door is just going to be tubing with cross member bracing. And then from there, we're going to run that over, and then that will get straight down into that. So that will keep a collapsible area. It won't be able to collapse. We'll also run another tubing from here back to that bar. So then he'll be fully protected from the top from crushing if he rolls over. That's about where we're at. It's a lot of work. It's very tedious. I mean, there's been days where I got to be honest, we've done only one bar. I think we did one day, all we did was this bar. Now we have other work that's going on here too. So, and I'm a one-man shop with an intern, and the intern's been really stepping up. His name's Nate. He's been doing an excellent job. He's got the coping figured out. He's still pretty green in the welding. So he hasn't been welding any of this. I've been welding all of it. It'd be nice if we can have him do that, but I'm sure in a few months he'll be up to speed for that. But yeah, sometimes it's just slow going. You know, sometimes you just hit a brick wall and you just got to call it a day, work on something else, come back, look at it later. You know, and that's what happens when you're designing it, you know, on the fly. We don't have a drawing. We don't have anything else going on. You know, I didn't model this up in CAD, which I really like doing. I like modeling up in CAD, basically because it's way easier to see what works and what doesn't work. But we didn't know what we can get away with on bends, with fitment. Also, drawing it up in CAD, we'd have to take all kinds of 3D measurements off this truck, and honestly, it's not worth the time. And it's just a little longer to build in the end, but obviously if we were doing this on a regular basis and building these, we would have a design already designed out where we could say, here's all the pieces, bend them, roll them, whatever they need to be for the front end, and that gets all welded together. Same for the cab, same for the roll cage, same for the back. So, but hopefully that keeps you guys intrigued. We're in the home stretch, but there's still a lot of little details, and sometimes that can take time just trying to figure out what would be the best option. So, alrighty guys, thanks for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you next time. Alright, peace out.
So bring your A game, cause you know this party won't stop. We could never run out of time, sipping strawberry lime. You know I wanna share it with you. This is going